Hi, and welcome back to EdTech Insider. I'm Andrew Cohen, the founder of Brainscape, and today I'm here with Scott Young. Scott is a graduating senior from the University of Manitoba and is also the author of a book called Learn More, Study Less that has some very interesting study tactics. How are you doing today, Scott?
I'm doing great. Great to be here.
Good to have you here. So, first of all, I wanted to give you the opportunity to tell us a little bit about what inspired you to create the book, Learn More, Study Less, and what it's really about.
Well, the book started because I wrote a series of articles on how I was able to do very well in school, so A to A plus grades with very little studying. And the idea that I broke it down to, and this is also from sort of observation research and other people, is that the people who tended to do well and to have this kind of habit of studying less and doing really well in classes tended to learn through connections. They make metaphors and really good analogies between ideas. And this was sort of just a kernel of an idea, but it got a lot of positive feedback, and I got to work with a lot of people to really expand upon it. And now it's sort of the basis of the book that I wrote and the courses that I teach.
And you wrote those articles first on your blog, on a school newspaper?
Yeah, on my blog. So I've had a blog for 2 years before I wrote those articles, just sort of on general self-improvement and that kind of stuff. And the articles on learning ended up becoming the sort of feature piece that kind of made my blog distinct.
It's a great education technology success story. And did you have to do a lot to kind of promote it on your own and do search engine optimization, or did the world sort of do the work for you by receiving your advice so enthusiastically and promoting it?
Well, the nice thing about having a blog is that it's a very well-tuned system for getting a lot of traffic. So the blog itself became kind of the promotional engine, and I've done guest articles on other large websites, sort of again through my reputation as a blogger, and that's gained a lot more influence on the core ideas.
Huge. So you had mentioned obviously kind of connections between subjects as being a crux of your study tactics. What other kinds of recommendations are in the book at the risk of giving away some of the the meat of it?
No. I'm fine. I'm fine giving away as much as I can in the short period of time we have here. But the main idea is that you want to try to link ideas together as a way of remembering them, as sort of a first step. And there's more advanced techniques that I break down into particular subjects. So obviously the studying needs of someone who is a math major is going to be different from someone who's in an anatomy class or is learning Spanish as a second language. And so there's a general principles that I've found kind of work for most subjects, and you have to sort of learn how to apply them. And then you break them down to the more specific ones. So there's good ways, techniques that are very specific that you can use for remembering vocabulary, for example. Beyond just the normal flashcard method, there's ones you can do to make that flashcard method a lot faster, so you don't have to do as many repetitions to get the same effectiveness.
Here at Brainscape, obviously, we're always thinking about how to make the flashcard model a lot more effective. Our shtick is making it so that the repetitions between the flashcards are at the perfect interval of time for you to ensure maximum.
System?
Right, and actually customizing that. So what we call it
Yes.
is confidence-based repetition. Is that similar to the system that you use, or do you kind of add on a different layer of kind of connecting ideas in your head, or using?
Well, the ideas that I talk about in the book was just sort of a branch off of that, like SRS and the technology behind it. I think actually has a lot of promise for like factual based classes. Like I have a lot of students in pre-med or anatomy where you just have to memorize tons of information that necessarily doesn't have a big structure to it. And languages are the same kind of way, that there's lots of vocabulary, that there's no necessarily rhyme or reason for why it's one word instead of another, but you still need to know it. And I have focused more on the mental techniques. Like there's techniques that involve imagery. So I won't go into too much detail here, but if you want to look on the internet for linking and pegging as memory techniques, and there's a modified one that you can do for vocabulary, which allows you to associate a target word with a word that you already understand. So if you're learning a word in French, like bonjour, you can translate like that to hello. And there's a memory technique that makes it easier to remember that connection. And then, of course, you can back that up with flashcards as well. But I've done my own personal tests and found that just doing repetition alone it's easier if you have this kind of as a starting point, give you a little bit of a head start.
Some kind of anchor to something that you already know. And it's similar to, I guess, the educational theory of scaffolding is what they often call it, or sort of building on on existing knowledge there. So, you know, there's obviously kind of the two parts of learning. There's the understanding a complex system, you know, whether it's accounting or photosynthesis or whatever, and then there's the memorization part. What do you think is the appropriate interaction between the two, and focus that should be spent on kind of the memorization and then the application of it, and you know, is there one that should come first or second?
Well, I think it does depend on what you're trying to learn. I think that there are a lot of subjects that do sort of lend themselves towards more flashcard style learning, but I do believe that for a lot of subjects that you're taking, I generally start with the understanding and then move down to the memorizing, because if you do have that scaffolding, if you do have sort of a structure of all these webs of connected ideas, then it's easier to fill in the gaps, and you can sort of see, okay, well, I need to remember this specific detail that fits somewhere in that big picture. Whereas if you try to do the reverse and remember a bunch of facts without understanding the big picture, it's much harder to build it afterwards.
So you've obviously kind of mastered the art of learning for tests and being able to get through school. What does somebody who has mastered the art of getting through school do now that you're graduating? What's next for you, Scott?
Well, I think that a big mistake is thinking that learning is just purely about education, is purely about passing tests. And I can't say too much about the projects because I haven't decided, but I think learning is going to be a huge part of my life, and learning new and interesting things, and particularly taking on new challenges with regards to learning. And I think even just talking to lots of people I know, even when you're outside of school, you're always trying to learn things. You're always trying to get better at what you do. Absolutely. And that's an ongoing process.
Well, that's definitely the attitude that we support here at Brainscape, and we look forward to keeping an eye on where you're headed, and being in touch over the next couple of years. So, Scott, thank you very much for joining us today. If anybody wants to find more about what you're doing, where can they reach you?
Everybody can check out my website at www.scotthyoung.com/blog.
Right on, and I'll flash that right here on the screen so that everybody can see it. Scott, it's been a pleasure.
All right, great.
And we'll see you next time.
It's been great. Thanks.
Once again, this is Andrew Cohen with EdTech Insider signing off. Thank you.